Access to Justice subcomponent of the DGF supports 14 civil society organizations to provide legal aid services, and they are working in 74 districts in Uganda.
Nakot Maria of Lorikokwa village met me on the way, explaining me that her land has been grabbed by one of the men of Longolegi village, Lokoroi. He inherited this land from their grandfathers, and he got this land during Bote 1.
Access to justice should not only be seen as a privilege for the rich, but should be as an essential service like medical, education. Government should look at it as a necessity and not as a luxury.
We have had a study that indicated that 88% of Ugandans in the last 4 years had a justice need that was difficult to resolve. Most of the time you find that a justice need that a poor person faces concerns something that is very important to him, for instance, his land. And if somebody is taking that away, he's likely to be destitute.
That's the reason as why she left that piece of land for some time without cultivating. That's due to climatic change, because there was too much of sun. She made an awareness that to the community of Longoleki village, plus Lokore, that they have come now back to my father's land. I need to use it for my cultivation and plus my children also.
The legal aid project, majorly, its mandate is to provide free legal aid for the indigent persons. Those are the poor people and vulnerable people who cannot afford their own lawyers or legal services.
So we come in to reduce vulnerability and ill-being of people who would otherwise be much worse off if there was no support given to them.
With the support of DGF, we are now in a position to identify cases that are worthy of representation and forward those cases to the pro bono advocates to handle them for free.
They held 60 meetings when they were complaining for this issue of land. And they were not agreeing even. And she went to the police. I told her there is an office which can help in some time, since the community has failed to solve this issue.
So we have a paralegal-based structure where we identify community members to work with. Given the nature of people here, women are given or they are less regarded. They almost have no right to own property. At the time the client came to office, she was referred by the paralegal, our paralegal Gabriel Longora.
The officers for the Uganda Law Society dropped some letters to the eldest ones, to the area land committees, and to some community members to attend this meeting.
So through our intervention and mediation, we're able to get these two parties to terms, and we're able to mediate the matter up to the level when the client was given an opportunity to take back what was rightfully hers.
We have partnered with Democratic Governance Facility. We want to see that more people are in position to resolve their disputes.
We started intervening in Naguru juvenile justice. We used to have around from 150 to 200 is the number you would find there. Yet the capacity of Naguru is meant to cater for 50 juveniles.
Kept getting issues of children overlaying in the remand home. And one of the reasons was that the cases for those children were coming from different areas. And the remand home management would find it sometimes very difficult to transport those people to different courts.
It is so clear and a bit evident that the number of these juveniles at Naguru remand home has reduced.
So they came up with a suggestion that if we could have a magistrate handling those matters specifically from that place. The issue went around the management of the judiciary, and in effect they agreed with their idea that there could be a magistrate earmarked to handle Naguru remand home cases from there. So in effect it was embraced by the judiciary.
With the support of DGF, we're in position to represent 135 inmates who were previously on death row, and we represented them in mitigation. And like 90% of them, we had their sentences commuted into a custodial sentence. And we had others actually released as a result of that intervention.
Platform for Labor Action advocates for the rights of vulnerable and marginalized workers, and as part of our work with the Democratic Governance Facility is mainly to enabling access to justice for the vulnerable and marginalized workers and poor persons.
If the indigent persons, if the poor workers, the vulnerable workers are not aware of their rights, are not aware of where to report, definitely they will never be able to claim for their rights.
Ne banzigwira fayiro era fayiro yange nekwatibwa Madamu Lydia Bwete na bawandiikira ebbaluwa kwegambe ebategeeza ensonga ezo nga bwe zitambudde ekyetaagisa kye balina okukola okwogerezeganya nabo kale ne basaba bajje twogere ensonga tuzimalire wano zireme kugenda mu kkooti. Era olwajja ne bakkiriza okunsasula, ne bakkiriza osasula esente ezo kuzisasula mu bitundu 4. Balina okumpa buli mwezi $1,800,000 paka nga ziweddeyo. Esente ne bazisasula bwe batyo mpola ne ziggwayo.
The Kigula case came about when the Constitutional Court ruled that the mandatory death sentence that the High Court used to issue was actually unconstitutional, and recommended that actually those people, all those people who had been sentenced to death and who had been on death row for a number of time, could actually go back to the High Court and have their sentences mitigated upon. Because prior to that case, whenever the High Court would find you that you are guilty of the crimes that are being charged, the judge did not have an option. Even when there would be mitigation, did not have an option but to sentence you to death. And the Constitutional Court ruled that that mandatory death sentence imposed on a judge was actually on what? Was unconstitutional. The judge now was in position to hear the mitigation, to hear the inmate, what actually forced this convict to commit the crime he committed. And as a result of that, we have seen many cases being committed into custodial sentence. Some of them have been were released, and we are having few that are still remaining, which we are still working upon.
We contribute to the debate on the need for the minimum wage, and as a result, within the same year, the minimum wage advisory board was appointed, which has been tasked to do a research, and I think that research is now out to do a research and make recommendations on how the minimum wage of the country can be set. Is it by sector? Is it general or what?
Our future plans in access to justice really relate to trying to reduce the cost of delivering legal aid, while at the same time ensuring early access to legal aid. If you can't have a lawyer, get paralegals. And it has worked very well within the communities. When you talk to those volunteers, you find they have a history of the case, they know the parties, they are part of the community, and it is also sustaining.